Hi, I'm Alice, the Fabric Ninja. Let me say that again for anyone who needs to lip read. Hi, I'm Alice, the Fabric Ninja. And today we're talking about face masks. I'm guessing this is not the first video you've watched. You're here watching this to find out why my video is going to be better, or what I can show you or teach you that's going to make this all easier for you. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I am going to teach you how to make these fast. I have been working to find the quickest and most efficient way for us, the seamstresses of the world, to make these face masks. So I've worked through several patterns, several different iterations, and I now feel very comfortable in saying I know the fastest way to make these so that we can keep up with the demand. We are here making these masks to help those people on the front lines, to help our healthcare workers, our firefighters, our police officers, EMTs, quite frankly, the people in the grocery store. Let's be honest. We need these face masks to help protect. And whether your hospital is using them to cover an N95 mask so that if any splatter occurs, they can wash this and can save that N95 mask for further use, or whether this mask is being used on its own. All of those are valid things, and we're here to help. So let me talk to you about the features of this mask so you can know right away what you're getting into and if this is the tutorial you want to watch. Whoa dang, this video got too long. So this video is about the supplies. All the different supplies that you can use to make masks. I have included a lot of information about alternate supplies, things that you might have laying around your house, how to make do with what you have, and information about how hospitals want very different things and how to figure out which thing you want to do. So this is the video about supplies, and the next video is about sewing. So I have elastic bands on the side of here, but you can also put fabric ties or any other type of tie on the edge. So both of these options are included in this information and the pattern. At the top, we have a moldable nose band. If your hospital is using these over an N95 mask, they may not want these moldable nose bands, but people who are using them on their own, the moldable nose band is what makes sure that this gets a good and tight fit. Because if this is not tight to the face, air will just go around it. You can also make this mask accept an additional filter, a filter that you would take out when it washes and put in a new one or reuse it depending on what you have. You can make this have an opening at the bottom where the filter can go in and out. Additionally, you can just have a permanent filter inside that's sewn as part of it that gets washed every time your mask gets washed. So let's start from the beginning and talk about what fabric we need to use. Hospitals are requesting that masks are made of 100% cotton woven fabric. So that would be your classic quilter's cotton, I have fun print like I have here, or a sheet. If you have extra sheets, maybe ones that have small holes in them that you were going to use for making mock-ups or different sewing projects, obviously cut around that hole, but those sheets are perfect for making these masks. They are tightly woven, which will help filter things out. If you're making a mask for yourself and not for a hospital, there are certainly other options that you can use, particularly a t-shirt. So if you have some t-shirts hanging around or 100% cotton knit that you want to use from your stash, that works great. It's just not what the hospitals are looking for right now. So if you're doing this for the hospital, 100% cotton, woven, a tight weave. So sheets or quilter's cotton. There are lots of other materials that masks can be made out of, and you may have seen a chart floating around about some studies that were done about the amount of filtration that different fabrics have. I definitely want you to check out the description box of this video. It will link you to those charts and to lots of other resources that you can make your own decision about what you want to use for these masks. But as I said, we're making these efficiently right now, and we're making them for hospitals and healthcare workers. So we're following their guidelines because they are going to be washing these with their scrubs. So they need these to be able to be washed just like everything else in the hospital would be. The scrubs, the sheets, the pillowcases, these are just going in the laundry with everything else. Next up, we have the sides. So you can use elastic, you can use ties. If you've already started to look for elastic, you may realize that it's a little bit hard to come by some places. And part of that is because of the words you were searching for, perhaps. Let me tell you about all the different types of elastic out there that you might be able to find still if you're having problems with your normal search words. This is 1/4" elastic. This is the standard. This is a great thing to use. This is a vintage roll of elastic that I've been using forever. If you have any vintage elastic or older stuff, what you need to do is give it a good pull. Make sure it's still popping in the back and you don't hear any crispiness. If you have crispy elastic, just throw it out. It's not doing anyone any good anymore. But this stuff is really strong, and so I just continue using it forever and ever and ever. It's the palest light pink, and I don't think our healthcare workers are going to be super concerned about a little pink. What we're worried about right now is making things work. Usability and functionality is the key here. So if you have 1/4" elastic, no matter the color, it's going to be a great option. So some other things that you'll be looking for, oh, real quick, this is probably what your 1/4" elastic looks like these days. Other great options, this is round cord elastic. It is quite thin. It has a lot of good stretch and bounce to it. If you are using this thin elastic, you do need to make a knot in the end of it. So this knotted piece of elastic is going to sit in your seam allowance, and then the elastic will go inside when you're sewing. This knot will keep it from pulling out because it doesn't have much surface area to get caught in the stitches. You might also look for something like this. This is called shock cord. This is an 1/8 inch shock cord. It's perhaps ever so slightly thicker than you really want this to be. 1/16 inch shock cord would be excellent. And this is used by hikers and backpackers, and some people like making bracelets and necklaces out of it. So shock cord is another word that you can look for. This is also a type that you'll need to put a knot into. It doesn't have a lot of surface area again, so a knot will help it come through. Okay, so we got elastic covered. Now let's cover ties. So these ties are made out of fabric. This is the same fabric that the mask was made out of. All I did was cut an 1.5" strip. I folded it in half and then fold both of those edges to the center and then folded the whole thing over. So all of the raw edges are being enclosed by this process, and then you just sew along the edge. Remember, this video is about efficiency. This is not efficient. These take a long time to make compared to a lot of other options. Bias tape is an amazing option. This is called double fold bias tape because it is basically what the fabric I just described to you was. So it is opened up, and if it was all the way flat, you see that both of the sides went to the center, and then it's folded again. A couple other options. This is grosgrain ribbon. It has a texture on it, kind of like a railroad track texture, and it will still allow lots of gripping when it gets tied. Satin ribbon is not a good idea. That stuff does not stay tied. Grosgrain ribbon with this texture to it will work just fine. Melt the ends or double fold them and run a line of stitching. A couple more options here. This is some drawstring. So it's a little stretchy. It's round, so you would need to make sure to put a knot in the end if you're going to use this. And it's really comfortable, soft, and easy to tie. If you have drawstring laying around, consider it. And last, which is probably the most practical option, twill tape. Yes, this is a lot of twill tape. So twill taping comes in lots of widths. This is 3/4 of an inch, and it will work just fine. If you want, you can certainly fold it down to give a skinnier tie, and I'm sure the healthcare workers would appreciate this, but this stuff is really soft. So if you had these fabric straps that were this wide, they would be super hard to tie. But these are going to be really easy to tie. And bonus points, the twill tape is made out of cotton. So you also don't have to worry about that whole, is there polyester that's going to melt or any of the other stuff. So if your hospital is wanting to autoclave the masks, you're going to need to use cotton ties, and you're probably going to need to use cotton thread, but check with them or give them a sample of a mask made with polyester thread, have them stick it in the autoclave and see what happens. You have access to an immense amount of resources on 4 or 5 different Facebook groups that are working on coordinating the efforts to make these masks. But you also need to be part of this effort. So talk to the people that you know. Do you have a friend who's a nurse, an EMT, a doctor? Talk to them. They can be the people who help you figure out what they need best. I'm currently working with a group of nurses at Eskenazi Hospital in Indianapolis. And so the masks that we're doing today are based off what they need, but I've also done a lot of research on what all the different hospitals are looking for. So I'm trying to give you the most updated information about everyone's needs. But make sure to check the box below or go to the webpage that I list there, and I will keep you updated if any of this stuff changes, because we need to make these as useful as possible. Sorry, a little sidetrack there. Let's keep going to that piece of metal that's going to go on the nose. So if your hospital is using these to just protect an N95 mask from splatter, the metal on the nose is really not needed, but most hospitals are requesting this metal now, which tells me that they're using these on their own and not just to protect other stuff. So let's talk about this metal. I want you to think about things that you have in your house that can make this work. These are twist ties from the grocery store, from bread bags. I have a little container that when I take one off a loaf of bread, I just drop it in. And so I end up with a lot of these over time. Now they're definitely looking a bit ragged, so maybe not use those, but I got 2 really nice looking ones here. And the important part with twist tie is that they're coated with plastic. If you have a twist tie that's coated with paper, it's not gonna last through the laundry. So they need to be coated with plastic. I just ordered 1,000 twist ties off of Amazon for $7. And I'm going to be splitting them with people around Indianapolis so that they can use them as well. 1,000 twist ties will get you 500 masks. So you need to use 2 of them in every mask. And I'm going to be hard pressed to find time to do 500 masks. So I will make sure to spread that around my local area. So if you have 2 of these twist ties, they will go right next to each other to be able to create that mask shape right here. These twist ties don't necessarily need to have anything done to the ends. The plastic that's around here is going to keep them from poking through. But let's talk about some other wire options you may have. This is floral wire. This green on here is a paint or a plasticized paint. And because it's floral wire, it's meant to get wet. So this is a good option. The gauges that you need to look for are 24 down to 20 or 18. Those will all be thick enough to do this. Think like angel hair pasta. That thinness That works pretty well doubled up. If you, just a reminder, when you're talking about wire numbers and gauges, the smaller number, the bigger the wire. So 20 gauge is going to be bigger than 24 gauge. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff and if you're looking online. But if you're ordering something online, just try to go with the twist ties. This is going to be your best bet. If you're trying to make things that work in your house well, let's work with one of these. So this is 24 gauge wire. It's very thin. It's like angel hair pasta, and this will work doubled up. This is 20 gauge, and it's not quite to spaghetti yet. It's still somewhere in the angel hair pasta range, and this also needs to be doubled. If you happen to have coat hangers that have a plastic coating on them, you can certainly use those. Those are going to be more like spaghetti rating, and those could be used just one at a time, but they do need to be plasticized or covered in plastic, so watch out for that. Again, twist ties, this is your best bet. You can also leave the metal nose piece out. Just check with who you're giving it to and find out if they want them. They're very easy to put in, so don't let yourself worry about that part. Let's make some masks. So before I cut my fabric, I'm going to take a moment to prep everything else so that I don't have to kind of stop what I'm doing and go back. So my first one's going to have 2 twist ties. Those are the only twist ties I could find. I think I used them from homeschooling. So I have other wire here as well. Let me figure out where I put my wire cutters. So I have 2 for the first mask that we're going to do, and then I'm just going to cut a bunch because we're making a lot of masks here. So I don't need to worry about how many exactly I'm cutting. I'm just going to cut a pile of them. And each one of these, a single wire needs to be 3 to 4 inches. So I'm going to be cutting these about 8 inches. And I'm just using the marks on my mat here to cut the first one. And then I fold it and cut the next one. So I'm just going to go down like this, pulling off more wire and cutting the next one. Okay, so I have a pile of wires. The ones that are long, I need to fold in half. And then I need to kind of push them up here together. I like taking this end here and squishing it so it's not terribly wide, but doesn't really matter, I guess. And if the ends of your wires ended up pokey, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, feel free to take those and roll them around the end of a needle nose plier. So I've worked those around in a circle here so they're not going to poke out the end. I have an end over here, and I'm going to do this to all the rest of my wires. You can obviously see why using 2 bread ties, twist ties, would make this go a lot quicker, because I have to use all this time to deal with the wires. So, yeah. Okay, I have a pile of wires that are all assembled here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that'll get me started. Next up, we're going to do our elastics and our ties. I'm gonna cut some ties and cut some elastics so you can see how it all works. If you're using this straight ties, 7 inches works really well for somebody who has a smaller face or maybe just not a lot of hair. 8 inches does a little bit better if you are a guy or have a bigger head. 9 inches is probably pushing it on the too much. So a lot of patterns say 7, but this is too small for my husband. He kind of has a big head. So let's do 8. 8 seems good, right? So I'm going to, again, do what I did with the wires. I cut one, and then I match at the top. I go down, and I just keep cutting them. You need 2 for every mask. So I have 2 sets right here. Now let me show you some of the other elastics. So let's do a quick stretch test. I have 10 inches of elastic here. And I can comfortably, that is like the amount of stretch I'd want behind my ears, I can stretch it up to like 13 before it gets a lot of tension. Let's take this and do the same test. So I have 10 inches here. And before it really gets any tension, I can get up to 15. So this is a lot stretchier and looser. So if you are using the 1/8 of an inch paracord, you're gonna need to make the ties probably 9 inches from knot to knot so that there is enough to still go around the ears comfortably. Again, I think that the 1/16 of an inch paracord is probably a better bet, but we're gonna try it with this anyway, just to find out if it works and if it's comfortable. So I'm gonna do 9 inches with that because of its lack of stretch, and I guess we'll find out if it works. And remember, this is knot to knot on this. So I'm gonna cut it a little beyond the knot and put my knot in. So making these knots also makes things go a little bit slower. All of these slowdowns are things you need to think of when you're trying to work through your process to figure out how to make things work best for you. So any other elastics that you want, totally fine. You can try not remember if it's round or thin. You do need to put a tie in the end, but this will get us started. Now let's get a couple of pieces of twill tape as well so you guys can see how those go in. 10 inches is not long enough. I'm going to tell you that right now. One, you have to be able to take this at the end and double fold it. So some directions are saying you only need 4 pieces of 10 inch. No, it is too short. So imagine how much you're going to take up with those 2 folds. It's about 1 inch. So that inch doesn't even count for the length. So you need these to be 13 inches, probably at the minimum. And 14 or 15 is not gonna hurt anyone. It'll just give you some extra room. So I'm gonna cut these at 14 inches. And again, I'm gonna use that same technique. I cut the first one, plop it down, cut the next one, and I just go until I have enough. I'll do one with a thin elastic too. This stuff has some really nice stretch. So again, let's take that 10 inches. Oh, wow, look at this. Like, this is not uncomfortable around my ears at all. I'm getting up to 16, 18. This one, I definitely feel like 7 inches. Knot to knot will be plenty. It is so smooth and easy to move. Anytime you can, make production. So cut a bunch of these and then do all the ties. Cut a bunch of these, cut a bunch of these. You need to do one thing at a time so you're not constantly changing what you're doing. That'll make everything go much quicker. Okay, so I have my ties, or in elastics. I have my pile of metals. Now all we need is some fabric, right?